So today's video is all about what I personally think is probably in the top 5 of all the albums I've ever released on Boss Tuneage. A cracking band, a cracking album, something that I really am proud of. It was our most ambitious release at the time. That band is the Jones. So as many of you know, HDQ are kind of one of my firm favourite bands of all time. I absolutely adored their albums. I'll obviously speak about HDQ when we get into like the retro series reissues, because you know, as I think I mentioned on another video, we actually were going to be releasing their follow-up release to Soulfinder. I mean, I'd spoken to Dickie and Golly about that at the time, but obviously then they split up. Dickie went off to do Leatherface and Golly sort of disappeared for a while. So if we fast forward to when the idea came about to start the label up again, that had come off the back of me compiling the HDQ You Suck CD reissue for Ace Records, who were one of my customers at CD plant I was working on, and this was in like 1998. And so one of the people I needed to get hold of and get in touch with was Dickie Hammond. So I think via either Sean Forbes or Andy Turner, when I spoke to them, I managed to track down Dickie and spoke to him. And we met up, and I remember him sort of saying, you know, I want to do this and stuff. Oh, so, yeah, that sounds great and everything. And he said, oh yeah, you know that we did a couple of, me and Golly have done stuff again. And we're doing this band called Fatty Jones. We did a one-off 7-inch called Stoko, which had Ian from Ran on drums, and they'd done this 3-track CD single under the name Fatty Jones, both of those came out on a label called Mother Stowe. Mother Stowe had also done an Annalise split 7-inch and stuff, because they were doing like a singles club, and they were doing stuff by the DeVales and stuff. And I think Dickie was either it was either house sharing or, you know, there was a big link between Dickie and the guys from the DeVales at the time. They could have been sharing a house, but I could be wrong with that, because Dickie was now living in London, and Golly was still up in Sunderland. So I remember getting the Fatty Jones. I think I bought it from Mother Stoke, because I've got to hear this. I can't ask Dickie for a copy. I'll just buy it and see. And it'd been recorded with Harvey Birrell at Southern Studios. And I remember just putting the CD on and went, oh my God, this is just marvellous. This is like HDQ again. And I still think that Fatty Jones CD single is one of the best UK releases of the 90s by far. So it was like, right, how can I work with this band?
Hello again, my friends. The one I was losing it. You caught me on the way down. You were the only one who noticed. Sometimes we're helping hand, and then I needed one shot. Keep me here and hoping. I heard you, boy, like an angel in the distance. You never knew about time, man. She turned me this way. She turned me blind inside. Led me by the hand to a home not big enough between the rocks and cave. The distance was too great. One more bite, rotten taste. Can't see straight. Just one more time. Sometimes we're helping hand, and then I needed one chance. Keep me here and hoping. I heard your voice, like an angel in the distance. You never knew about time, man. Your perfect time, man. Your perfect time, man. Your perfect time, man. And you were shining.
So the lineup of Fatty Jones, as they were called at the time, was obviously Golly, who'd been in HDQ with Dickie on vocals, Dickie, of course, on guitar. Bass player was Richie Glover, and I knew Richie because obviously not only been in the Abs, but he was also in Dub War. So obviously our paths had crossed numerous times when I'd been working at Earache in the mid-90s, and then Andy Zammett, who'd been in Tim Benson, was on drums. And I remember I went to see them at a gig at the Bull and Gate, and I don't think they play that many gigs, with Golly obviously being still based in Sunderland and coming down when he could to London, because the rest of the band were in London and Golly was up there. And I remember just watching them and thinking like, wow, this band's amazing, you know. And so I think I sort of mentioned at that time saying, look, I don't know what your plans are, but you know, if you want to do an album, I'd love to do it on Boss Tuneage. Have a think about it and let me know. And I didn't think too much of it at the time. I thought, oh well, you know, and I didn't also want to tread on Justin Mother Stoke's toes either. You know, I didn't want to kind of muscle in if the plan was to do it on Mother Stoke or something. But he was really cool about it. I seem to remember Justin. So I hadn't thought much about it, and I thought, well, it's probably not going to happen, because I don't think that they'll kind of want to do it with me. And I remember that the final show of the Unknown tour in July 2000, Dickie actually came along, and I was doing the merch table, and he said, "All right, son, how's it going?" He said, "We've had a chat. We'd love you to do the album." I was like, "All right, fantastic. We're going to need some money to record it, though." "All right, okay, yeah. Well, we want to go to this studio called Z1 because it's like an analog studio, and I think that's going to be, the best place to record. I think Dead Inside had recorded there recently on that, and it's Lippy from Antisect is like the engineer there, and so we want to go up to Z1 and record the album there." I said, "All right, okay. Well, how much are you going to need to record?" "I reckon about $3,000. I went, "All right, okay, brilliant." So after that, I went home and thought, how on earth can I find $3,000 to record this album? I really want to do this band, but I was kind of thinking it was going to be like £1,000 or something to record, not $3,000. But but I really, really wanted to do it, and I thought I've got to get my thinking cap on here. So that's what I did. So I spent, I think, the next few days doing some frantic number crunching, like working out, well, I've not got £3,000 to spend on recording. I've obviously got some sales money due in from Japan on the releases we just done. I wouldn't have to necessarily pay for the pressing of the CDs straight off because I was on the credit account now at Key, so I could worry about that in a couple of months' time. And obviously I was just thinking, like, I can't see, if I only am pressing enough CDs for me here, I can't see how I can cover that recording cost, and put the record out. So I had to think a bit outside the box. So what I did was go, right, if I can't afford it alone, I need other people in other countries to come in on this with me. And maybe if we do if I coordinate like the recording and the pressing from here in the UK and send out copies to all these other co-release labels that I can find, maybe that's how I can make it work. Now, luckily, because of like the it being Dickie, and obviously he'd done Leatherface as well, and Dr. Bison and bands like this, there were people around the world that kind of knew Dickie's bands and were prepared to kind of go in with this. And it just so happened those people who I approached were also people who were helping me distribute the label at the time. So first port of call was obviously Kaza over in Japan. Now at this point, Kaza had just been taking our stock and acting as Boss Tuneage Japan and sending me the sales in. But for this release, obviously he'd heard Fatty Jones, loved HDQ back in the day. HDQ were massively popular in Japan. So the idea was put forward. He said, well, could I co-release it on Waterslide? And then I can pay for my share of the pressing. I will need, I can't remember how many, I think it was about 500 of these, so I'll pay for 500 CDs. What would be the price? And the price would obviously include a share of the recording costs as well as the manufacturing costs out to Kaza. So that was Japan ticked off. So next I thought Germany, HDQ toured Germany constantly back in the day. Leatherface obviously they were a big band in Germany. I think they already had plans that they were going to go out and tour Germany and Europe through Dolph was going to book it for them. So the immediate person to call for that was Flight 13 and Jürgen, because obviously Jürgen was in Kick Jones's at the time and had been in Water Elf, who toured with HDQ and had known Dickie for years as well. So I remember contacting Jürgen and saying, look, I'm agreeing to do like Dickie's new band, the Jones, because they changed their name to the Jones by this point. They decided to drop Fatty, so it was still the same lineup, but they just shortened the name to the Jones. And they obviously said, yeah, but we'd like vinyl. And so I think I worked out a deal with them where they would press the vinyl version and then I would supply them with CDs. And so they helped with a share of the recording costs as well. So that now meant we got vinyl and CD sorted. But I still did the numbers and thought I'm still short for enough to pay for recording here and enough to press to make it sort of be able to break even. So I then contacted Anthony at Ding Dong Ditch in the States, who also was a mammoth HDQ fan, and suggested, well, would he like to release it in America? To which he said yes. Yeah, so he sort of said, yeah, I'll take 1,000 CDs for America. And we worked out a price, and the price obviously covered the manufacturing and the share of recording costs there. And lo and behold, by doing this co-release by all these labels, I worked it out that I then just about had enough money to pay for the recording and press it. So that's what we did, and the band went into the Z1 studios, I think in sort of September, October time.
There's a special place that I know, when I like to take you there, somewhere between light and darkness, somewhere where the water really flows. Speak now while you're free to soar. Breathe the clouds, now I'm gonna say, can actually mean something. Speak now while you're free to soar. Speak out and I'm not here to make up numbers. Time was up some time ago. I know we've got somewhere to go now. Tell a long and wilted road. Speak now while you're free to soar. Breathe the cloud, now I'm gonna say, can actually mean something. Speak now while you're free to soar. Speak
So I think that like the band had organised with Lippy, Pete Lyons, who was like the engineer there at this time at Z1, to sort of like get sort of cheaper rates and you know do a lot of like overnight sessions and in downtime in the studio and things like that to try to keep the costs down. I remember I used to sort of like, you know, finish at work and then go up and see them at the start to see how things were progressing and stuff like that. And I went a couple of times whilst they're recording. Prior to this, and I've still got it somewhere, they actually did demos of all the songs on the Jones on an old 4-track. And I've only got it on DAT tape, and it's one of those things that I've remembered I need to at some point kind of just try to get that off the DAT tape to have a listen again. You know, it's not releasable quality, but it would be kind of nice to hear that. And yeah, so I have still got that somewhere because they demoed out all the songs before they went into the studio. You know, like I say, it was an old analog studio. It was all recorded on multi-track rather than digitally, and it took quite a while. And I think they started to run behind. And then obviously there was it was a case of literally, because I was still organising this when the money was coming in and when it wasn't, it was sort of like paying a cheque to the studio, sort of almost in arrears to keep the recording session going. So it was quite fraught at one point, I think, I seem to remember, where it was all like, crap, we're going to go well over budget here if we're not careful. And I think that Dickie sort of managed to work his charm with like people there, so that, you know, we kept it within the budget, which was really handy, because there was definitely no more money. It kind of cleaned me out for a while, for a little period of time, I seem to remember. But, you know, I was just so amazed that this is going to happen, you know, and you know, let's hope it sounds good, you know. And, you know, going off the back of the CD single, I thought this is going to be a cracking album. And and I think Golly just came down for a few of the sessions, because obviously he was in Sunderland, so he'd come down and they were recording it in London, as I say. And they ended up with 10 songs, and then it went off to be mastered, and I hadn't budgeted for mastering, so I then had to cobble together another couple of £100 to get it mastered by a guy called Ian Anderson. So anyway, all came together, and Andy, the drummer, was going to work and do the artwork, so he came up to Key and worked with like the people in the repro department to put the artwork together. And Gravity Blues appeared that autumn. I think it came out in about October or November time. So it was pretty much as soon as it was kind of ready, it was like, boom, right, let's get it out. We need to get some money back here. But it's, I look at it now, and actually, I think that, you know, some of those songs on there are some of the finest that Dickie was involved with. And I think as an album, it's such a solid album. And it's one that I really hold dear to my heart, and one I'm really immensely proud of, and thank goodness we kind of worked it to actually get the thing released. So the plan was that they were going to go on quite a big European tour, and we were obviously going to give them stock to sell on that and stuff, and that would kind of be like the band royalties, I think, from memory. Because obviously, you know, I think it was going to be quite hard to give the band royalties with all the costs up front as well. So they'd had a big tour planned, and I think for whatever reason, Golly, after they did a couple of small shows, I remember seeing them in a little pub in Putney. It might have been called the Half Moon, I could be wrong on that, after Gravity Blues came out. But then I think Golly, for some reason, couldn't commit to the tour. And they got a guy in called Phil, who I think had sang for a band called Novocaine, to stand in. So they did that tour, but that was pretty much the only thing they did. So they didn't actually sort of tour and promote the album after it came out, but the reviews were fantastic. And I know that, you know, I remember speaking to someone like Beefy from Milloy, and the whole reason Milloy wanted to do something with Boss Tuneage is because of the Jones Gravity Blues album, because, you know, it was one of his favourite albums and stuff. And so it's a brilliant album. And like I say, I think we ended up, I think at the time we did 600 vinyl albums, Flight 13 pressed, and I think we ended up doing, it was either 2,500 or 3,000 CDs across all the labels combined at the time. So it was a much bigger thing for me to undertake, but one that I'm really, really proud I did. So obviously after the Jones, Golly would kind of, you know, go into kind of like retirement from bands for a while. Dickie would go on and do Stoko, and they put out a CD called The Experiment Has Been a Complete and Utter Failure a couple of years on from that, which Rookie put out in Germany, and I obviously helped Jürgen distribute that, but it wasn't actually a Boss Tuneage release, that one at the time. We'd obviously reissue it a couple of years ago. And Andy Zammit would go on to basically introduce the world to C6 Steve, and when the Bronze Rat record label that broke C6 Steve. So that's and he lives in Germany now. And Richie Glover was last seen in Bad Sam, which were obviously originally called Bad Samaritans, who were with Bedis from the Cowboy Killers. And also, I believe, rumour has it that there might be an ABS reformation happening as well, but you know, I can't confirm or deny that. But I was like, because I've not spoken to him. But yeah, that's the Jones and what they kind of went on to do. So fast forwarding to 2015 and the 25th anniversary of the first Boss Tuneage release, I was trying to think what I was going to do. And obviously on the 20 years, and I'll talk about this on another video, we did a 4 CD, 120 track, 20 years of Boss Tuneage sort of box set. And to be honest with you, with things that were happening in 2015, obviously Julie, my wife's mother, was terminally ill, and we were end-of-life carers at that point. So actually sort of committed, the time I could commit to the label in sort of 2014, 2015 was limited. But I did want to do something to mark the 25th anniversary, and so I thought, let's think of like one of our finest releases, and I'll put that out again as like a special edition for the 25th anniversary, and that would be something I could do. And so the idea was to do Gravity Blues, and obviously I spoke to Dickie about it and said, but what I want to do is I want to get hold of Justin from Mother Stowe, and we will put this Stoco 7-inch and the Fatty Jones CD single, see if we can license them and do a 16-track vinyl LP with the CD included, and do that as a special kind of edition for the 25th anniversary. And Dickie was really into that idea. Obviously at that point in 2015 we'd just done the HDQ Lost in Translation album as well. So yeah, so we put that together. I got hold of Justin, we managed to get like the DAT tapes, we remastered it, and we put that out in 2015, in the summer of 2015 I believe. And then obviously, unfortunately, we lost Dickie a few months later after that, which was a shock, but we could kind of see, unfortunately, that was going to be happening. And you know, it affects me deeply. I couldn't listen to that Jones album for probably 2 or 3 years after we lost Dickie. It just brought up too many, you know, hard memories that we'd lost such a lovely, lovely man. And you know, I still miss him dearly. I still think, you know, I'm going to walk into a gig and get a tap on the shoulder and saying, all right, son, any royalties? Like Dickie always used to do when I'd see him. But yeah, so it was hard. I mean, I remember my the last phone call I had with Dickie actually, and he was saying, son, I want you to put the Stoco album out, and you know, speak to Jurgen, I want that to come out, and I want to do it. And you could tell he was in a bad way, and he went, and the last words he said to me was, love you. And that was probably a couple of weeks before he died. Fortunately I couldn't go to his funeral, which I understand was just an amazing event, and I miss him terribly. And you know, I'm grateful that they had the courage in me to put the Jones album out, and I'm really glad that I worked out the number crunching to make it happen and do it. And I think it's one of our finest releases, and if you've not heard it, go and check it out, because it's what I'm really proud of on the label. And that's it for this video, and obviously I'll speak about the things we did with Dickie later on and HDQ on another video. But that's it for this time. Speak to you on the next one. Cheers.